I have been working as a night security guard for nearly 5 years now, and I have seen some strange things in that time, but nothing comes close to what happened at my last job. It was an old office building, nothing special, just floors of cubicles and conference rooms that all looked the same. Most nights were uneventful, just me, the cameras, and the occasional janitor passing through. But then one night, I noticed something on the monitors that made my stomach tighten. A man walking the halls. That was not strange by itself. Sometimes employees stayed late or forgot something at their desks. But what caught my attention was the way he moved. He did not rush, did not hesitate, did not even glance around, just walked, slow and steady, down the same path. From the main entrance, through the first floor hallway, past the elevators, and then into the stairwell, and then he was gone. No exit, no return, just disappeared. I grabbed my flashlight and headed out to check, but when I got there, the hall was empty. The air felt thick and still, like the building itself was holding its breath. I looked everywhere, even in the stairwell, but there was no sign of anyone. It was like he had never been there at all. The next night, he was back, same path, same speed, same vanishing act. I started paying closer attention, rewinding the footage, trying to figure out if it was some kind of glitch. But every time, it was the same thing. He would walk, disappear, and leave no trace. After a week of this, I brought it up to my supervisor. He barely glanced at the footage before shrugging it off. Just an old recording looping by accident, he said, but that did not make sense. Our system was live feed only. There was no way an old recording could play over it. I told him that, but he just waved me off. If there is no one actually there, then there is no problem. I wanted to let it go, but something about that man made my skin crawl. It was not just that he was appearing out of nowhere. It was the feeling I got when I watched him. It was like he knew I was watching, like he was waiting for something. Curiosity got the best of me. One night, instead of watching the footage, I went to the hallway just before his usual time. I wanted to see if I could catch him in person. I stood there, flashlight in hand, staring down the empty corridor. The air felt colder than usual. A strange silence settled over the building, the kind that made my ears ring. Then I heard it. Soft footsteps, slow and steady, just like on the cameras, but I saw nothing. The steps grew closer, and my breath caught in my throat. I felt something pass right in front of me, the air shifting like someone had walked by. My skin prickled, and my legs locked in place. I forced myself to turn, to shine my light where the steps had gone, but there was nothing, just empty space. I ran back to the security room, hands shaking as I rewound the footage, and there he was, walking past me. Except on the screen, I was not reacting. I was just standing there, still as a statue, as he walked right by. That was when I knew this was not just a glitch. This was something else, something I did not want to understand, but I could not let it go. I needed to know who he was, why he was doing this, so I dug into the building's history. I spent hours searching old records, security logs, anything I could find, and then I found it. 10 years ago, a man had died in that building, a late-night worker, just another guy, trying to meet a deadline. He had suffered a heart attack, right in the stairwell. No one found him until the next morning. And the creepiest part, his usual route through the office was exactly the same path the figure on the cameras was walking, step for step, night after night. I tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence, that I was letting my imagination get the best of me. But deep down, I knew the truth. This man was stuck, repeating the last moments of his life over and over again, and I was the only one seeing it. After that, I started dreading my shifts. The more I watched him, the more uneasy I felt. It was like he was getting closer, He still walked the same path, but every few nights, he seemed to turn his head just slightly, like he was trying to look at the camera, like he was trying to look at me. Then one night, everything changed. The monitors went black for a split second, just long enough to make my heart jump. When the footage came back, he was no longer walking. He was standing still, right in front of the security room door, facing the camera, staring directly at me. I stopped breathing. My whole body went cold. The footage had never changed before. He had never stopped, never looked at the camera, but now he was, and he was waiting. I could not move. I could not think. Then the door handle rattled. I jumped back so fast, I knocked over my chair. The sound was loud in the silence, echoing through the empty office. My heart pounded as I stared at the door, waiting for it to open. But it never did. After a long, terrifying minute, the rattling stopped. I forced myself to check the camera. He was gone, just like that. The hallway was empty again. I did not sleep that morning. I could not. I put in my resignation that same day. I never even went back to collect my things. I did not care. Whatever was in that building, I wanted nothing to do with it. I still think about him sometimes, about the way he stared at the camera that night, about the way the door handle moved, like he was trying to come inside. I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed, if I had opened that door, but I will never know. And I do not want to. Working as a night security guard is a lonely job. Most of the time, it is just me, the cameras, and the sound of my own footsteps echoing through empty halls. I used to like the silence. It made the long hours easier, but that changed when I started my shift at the underground parking garage. The first time I saw her, I did not think much of it. A woman standing near the farthest corner, just outside the range of the dim overhead lights. She was dressed in a long dark coat, her hair hanging over her shoulders. At first I assumed she was waiting for someone, maybe a late-night worker or a taxi, but she never moved, never checked her phone, never even shifted her weight. She just stood there, facing forward, as if she was staring at something only she could see. I watched her on the monitors for a while, expecting her to leave, but she did not. When I did my first patrol of the night, I passed by the spot where she had been standing. She was gone. No footsteps, no car pulling away, just empty concrete and the low hum of the fluorescent lights. I told myself it was nothing. People came and went all the time. But when my next shift started, she was there again. Same spot, same posture, still unmoving. It was unsettling, but I tried to ignore it. Maybe she was waiting for someone who never showed up. Maybe she just liked standing there. It was weird, sure, but not illegal. I had no reason to approach her, so I did not. Not yet, but every night, she was there, always in the same place. Never leaving, never making a sound. The more I watched her, the more wrong it felt. There was something unnatural about her stillness, something that made my stomach twist with unease. After a week, I finally decided to check the cameras from past shifts, looking for any sign of when she arrived or left. But there was nothing. Every recording showed the same thing, an empty parking garage one moment, and then suddenly, she was just there, as if she had stepped into existence when no one was looking. I felt a cold sweat crawl down my back. It did not make sense. I replayed the footage again and again, but the result was always the same. One frame empty, the next she was there, like she had never walked in, like she had never moved at all. That night, I could not shake the feeling that something was watching me. I kept glancing at the monitors, expecting to see her turn her head, expecting to see some sign that she knew I was watching. But she never did. She just stood there, waiting, but should have left it alone. I should have told myself it was just some strange trick of the cameras, ignored the fear crawling in my gut, and moved on. But I did not. On my next patrol, I decided to get closer, just enough to see her face, just enough to prove to myself that she was real. As I walked toward her, my footsteps echoed in the silence. The air felt heavy, thick with something I could not name. But she did not react. She did not turn, did not flinch. It was as if she had not even noticed me. When I was a few feet away, I hesitated. My flashlight flickered, the beam struggling against the dimness, and then, with a deep breath, I stepped forward. "Ma'am," my voice barely echoed before vanishing into the vast emptiness of the garage. No response. "Are you all right?" Still nothing. My pulse pounded in my ears as I finally reached out and touched her shoulder. The moment my fingers brushed against the fabric of her coat, a deep, unnatural cold seeped into my skin. My breath caught in my throat as she finally moved, not in a natural way, not like a person turning to acknowledge someone behind them. It was as if something else had taken control of her, forcing her body to shift in a way it was never meant to. Slowly, she turned to face me, and that was when I saw it. She had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth, featureless skin, where a human face should have been. My body locked up in pure, paralyzing terror. My mind screamed at me to run, to move, to do anything but stand there frozen in horror. But I could not. But I could only stare as the faceless woman stood before me, unmoving, her empty face tilting slightly, as if she was studying me just as I had studied her. Then, without warning, the lights flickered, and the entire garage plunged into darkness. My breath came in short, panicked gasps as I stumbled backward, fumbling for my flashlight. When I finally managed to switch it back on, the beam of light trembled in my shaking hands. She was gone. The spot where she had stood was empty, as if she had never been there at all. But the cold remained, a deep bone-chilling cold that clung to the air long after she had vanished. I did not finish my shift. I ran. I did not stop running until I was outside, until the bright city lights reminded me that the world was still real, that I had not just stepped into some nightmare that would never let me go. I quit the next day, did not give notice, did not explain. I just left. But even now, I cannot shake the feeling that she is still there, standing in that same spot waiting. And sometimes late at night, when I close my eyes, I see her. I see that smooth, empty face staring back at me from the darkness, and I wonder if, one day, she will finally follow me home. There is something unsettling about an empty mall at night. The silence is too perfect, the kind that makes your own footsteps sound wrong. I had been working security for a few months, doing my usual rounds, checking the stores, making sure everything was locked up tight. It was routine, dull, the kind of job that lets your mind wander. But that night, something broke the silence. A knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps. It came from the storage room at the far end of the mall, a place only employees were allowed into. At first I figured it was a janitor, or maybe someone who had gotten locked inside by mistake. I walked over, radio in hand, and knocked back. No answer. I pulled out my key and unlocked the door, pushing it open. The room was empty, just shelves of supplies and cleaning equipment. I checked every corner, my flashlight slicing through the darkness. Nothing. Still, I felt uneasy. The air in that room was heavy, like it did not want me there. Shaking it off, I locked the door and went back to the security office. An hour passed, maybe more. I was reviewing the footage, making sure everything was in order, when I heard it again, knocking. But this time, it was not from the storage room. It was closer, right outside the security office door. My breath hitched. I had not heard anyone approach. The monitors showed nothing but empty hallways. Slowly, I turned to face the door. every muscle in my body tense. 3 knocks. Slow, steady. I reached for my radio, my fingers stiff. Is someone there? My voice sounded weak in the quiet. No response, just silence pressing in on me. Then, another knock. This time, from inside the office. Behind me. I spun around so fast, my chair tipped over. The small office was empty, just the monitors casting their pale glow. My heart was hammering. I could feel something watching me, just out of sight. I forced myself to turn back to the screens, scanning every camera feed, searching for movement. That was when I saw it. A figure, standing in front of the locked storage room. No face, no details, just a shadow where a person should be. I blinked, and it was gone. My stomach turned. The radio crackled in my hand, but I did not dare speak. The silence stretched, too thick, too unnatural. Then the knock came again. Not from the door, not from the office, but from the walls themselves, surrounding me. I ran. I did not care if I looked like a fool. I just needed to get out. The second I stepped into the hallway, the air felt different, heavier. My boots echoed too loud against the tiles. The mall was still empty, but I did not feel alone. I forced myself to keep moving, heading straight for the exit. But as I passed the storage room, I heard it again. 3 knocks. This time they came from the inside of my own chest, vibrating through my bones. I stumbled, gasping for breath. I knew then that I had let something out, something that was never meant to leave that room. I did not wait to find out what it wanted. I left that night, and never went back. The next morning, the new guard called me. He asked if I had ever heard knocking in the storage room. I told him to quit. He laughed, but I know he will hear it too. Soon, days passed, but the feeling never left me. No matter where I went, I kept expecting to hear it. 3 slow knocks. At home, I would wake up in the middle of the night, certain that someone had rapped on my bedroom door. At the grocery store, I froze when I heard a rhythmic tapping against the metal shelves, only to find no one there. I started keeping the TV on, the radio playing, anything to drown out the silence. But it did not matter. The sound found me anyway. One night, I woke up drenched in sweat, heart pounding. The knocking had followed me into my dreams. I saw the storage room door, heard the sound, and felt something staring at me from the darkness within. It wanted me back. I refused to sleep, refused to be alone in my own apartment. But no matter how many lights I left on, the shadows stretched toward me. The knocking became more frequent, more insistent. One night, as I sat curled up on my couch, I heard it again. 3 knocks, right on the wall behind me. Slowly, I turned my head. The air was thick, suffocating. I wanted to move, but my body would not respond. Then the worst part happened. My phone buzzed on the table, a text notification flashing on the screen. It was from an unknown number. 3 words, "Let me in." I threw the phone across the room, my breathing shallow. My mind raced. How was this possible? I wanted to run, but where? The storage room had been locked. The figure on the cameras was gone. But deep down, I knew the truth. I had opened something that night, and it had found me. A sharp knock rang out again, this time at my front door. I did not move. I did not breathe. The peephole was right in front of me, but I was too afraid to look. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "I see you." My vision blurred as my pulse pounded in my ears. The air shifted, cold and stale. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and died. I was plunged into darkness, and the knocking began again. This time it did not stop. It was inside my apartment now. I knew, no matter what, I could never escape. The storage room had never been haunted. It had been a door, and I was the one who had let something out. There are some things you do not question when you work security, some rules you follow without needing an explanation. At the mall where I worked the night shift, there was a chair in the guardroom that nobody ever sat in. It was just an old wooden chair, tucked in the corner, covered in dust. The first time I asked about it, my supervisor just shook his head. "Leave it alone," he said. I thought it was some kind of joke, a rite of passage for new hires. But then I noticed something strange. Every time someone moved the chair, the security cameras glitched. Not just a normal static flicker, but something deeper. The footage would stutter, and when it resumed, little things would be different. A hallway that was empty would suddenly have a shadow stretching across the floor. A mannequin in a store window would be facing the other way. The lights in the parking garage would dim for a split second, like the entire building was taking a breath. At first, I chalked it up to a bad system, an outdated surveillance feed. But then one night, I moved the chair myself. I had been working the night shift for about 6 months when I finally gave in to curiosity. It was a slow night, only a few janitors left in the building. Bored, I grabbed the chair and dragged it to the center of the room. Instantly, the monitor screens flickered. Every camera went black for half a second. When the feed came back, my stomach dropped. The mall looked the same, but the timestamp on the footage was off by exactly 3 minutes. The chair I had just moved was still in the corner, in the camera footage, as if I had never touched it. My own reflection in the monitor looked wrong. My posture was slightly different, my hands resting on the desk when I knew they were in my lap. A cold wave crawled up my back. I shoved the chair back into the corner, heart hammering in my chest. As soon as I did, the cameras flickered again, and everything was back to normal. After that, I kept my distance, but I started paying attention. Every few weeks, a new hire would come in and try to move the chair. Every time, the same thing happened. One guy laughed it off at first, saying it was just bad wiring. Then an hour later, he quit on the spot, just walked out without saying a word. Another guy, Mark, stuck around longer. He was the kind of guy who did not scare easy. One night, he decided to test it out. He moved the chair to the middle of the room and sat in it. I told him not to, but he just smirked. "What is the worst that can happen?" he said. The moment he sat down, the lights dimmed. Not a flicker, a full heavy darkness that lasted for a full 10 seconds. The monitors went black. When they came back on, I felt my stomach turn. The timestamp had jumped forward by 15 minutes. Mark sat frozen in the chair, his face pale. When the lights returned, he stood up so fast, he nearly fell over. "I think I need some air," he muttered, and walked out. The next day, he called in sick. Then he never came back. That was when I started digging. I asked around, but the older guards just shrugged me off. The janitors avoided the question entirely. Finally, one of the maintenance guys, an old-timer named Lewis, told me what he knew. "That chair has been here longer than me," he said. "Longer than the mole. Used to belong to a night guard back in the 70s. One night, he just disappeared. Security found his radio on the desk, his coffee still warm, but he was gone. No signs of struggle, no footage of him leaving, just gone. They searched for weeks, never found a trace. After that, strange things started happening. Cameras glitching, shadows moving, things changing when no one was looking, so they left the chair there. No one sits in it, no one moves it, and the weirdness stays small. That story should have been enough to stop me. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. A few nights later, I stayed late to watch the overnight footage. I wanted to see if the chair ever moved on its own. For hours, nothing happened. Then just after 3 a.m., I saw it. The chair shifted, just an inch. The cameras glitched, and for a split second, I swore I saw something in the reflection of the glass storefronts. A figure, standing behind me, watching. The feed returned to normal, but I could not shake the feeling that something had changed. The air felt heavier, the silence deeper. I turned slowly, my breath caught in my throat. There was nothing there, but the chair. It was no longer in the corner, it was facing me. That was the last night I worked there. I handed in my resignation the next morning. I do not know what is wrong with that chair. I do not want to know, but sometimes, when I pass by the mall at night, I swear I can see something in the upper windows, a faint glow, a shadow that should not be there. And I wonder, did the guard from the 70s really disappear? Or is he still there, trapped in the flickering static of the cameras, waiting for someone else to take his place? There is something about working the night shift that changes the way you see the world. Darkness plays tricks on your eyes. Silence makes the smallest sounds seem deafening. And when you are alone for too long, your mind starts to fill in the empty spaces. I have been a security guard for years, and I have seen my fair share of strange things, but nothing prepared me for what happened during one particular shift. It started like any other night. I was in the control room, watching the security feeds, my eyes flicking between different angles of the empty corridors and parking lots. The building was massive, an old corporate headquarters that had been partially abandoned after budget cuts. Most floors were empty, their lights off, their hallways nothing but long, dark stretches of silence. I liked working alone. It was peaceful, predictable, until it was not. At first, it was just a flicker, the kind of thing you tell yourself is a glitch. One of the monitors showed movement, a shadow passing just outside the elevator on the 5th floor. The problem was, that floor was supposed to be empty. No employees, no janitors, no late-night stragglers. I leaned in, rewound the footage a few seconds, and played it back. The shadow was there, shifting, stretching across the hallway wall, but there was no source, no person, just a shifting darkness that did not belong. My stomach tightened, but I had a job to do. Taking my flashlight and radio, I made my way to the 5th floor. When the elevator doors opened, I stepped out into the hallway. Silence, the kind that pressed against my ears and made my own breathing sound too loud. I walked the entire floor, checked every room, every corner. Nothing, just empty offices, empty halls, and the faint hum of the air conditioning. Feeling a bit foolish, I returned to the control room and sat back down. I told myself it was probably a trick of the camera, maybe even a bug in the system, but as I settled back in, I noticed something on the screen. The shadow was back, only this time, it was not in the hallway. It was closer, right outside the security office. My chest tightened. The camera feed showed the door behind me, the same door I had locked when I returned. The shadow stood just beyond it, motionless. I turned slowly, half expecting to see nothing. But the door was closed, and the small window embedded in it showed only the dimly lit hallway outside. When I looked back at the screen, the shadow was gone. I did not move for a long time. My heart pounded in my ears. I took a deep breath and forced myself to scan the other cameras. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe someone had been in the building after all, a late worker who had avoided my patrol. But as I flipped through the feeds, something made my skin crawl. The shadow was still there, but now it was on another floor, closer to the stairwell, closer to me. It was not just shifting randomly, it was moving. It was coming toward the security office. I locked the door. I do not even remember doing it, but my hand was on the bolt, twisting it shut as my other hand gripped my radio. I called the other guard on duty, but there was no response. That was when I realized I was alone. The other guy had left hours ago, his shift ending early, due to a scheduling error. It was just me, and whatever this thing was, the screens flickered. For a brief second, all of them went dark. When they came back, my breath caught in my throat. The shadow was inside the stairwell, 2 floors below me, then 1 floor below. Then it was at the base of the hallway, leading to the security office. My fingers trembled as I reached for my flashlight, but I did not turn it on. Somehow, I felt like I should not, like light would make it worse. The camera feeds blinked again. The shadow had reached the door, the one I had just locked. The air in the room changed. It was like the walls themselves were breathing, the air thick and heavy. A slow, dragging sound came from the other side of the door, a scrape, a whisper of movement, and then, knocking. 3 soft, deliberate knocks. I stopped breathing. My body refused to move. The knocking came again, this time followed by something worse. A voice, low, quiet, but not quite right, like someone trying to mimic human speech, but failing. "Let me in." The words were slow, stretched, wrong. My legs refused to move. Every instinct screamed at me to stay silent, to pretend I was not here. The knocking continued, soft but insistent. Then as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The camera feeds blinked again. The shadow was gone. The hallway was empty. My breathing came in shallow bursts. I waited, watching the monitors, for what felt like hours. Nothing moved. No sound, no sign that anything had ever been there. Eventually, my shift ended, and daylight crept into the building. When the morning guard arrived, I did not tell him what happened. I just grabbed my things and left. The next night, I almost convinced myself it had been a hallucination, lack of sleep, a trick of the light. But when I sat down at the desk and pulled up the camera feeds, my stomach dropped. The security footage from the night before had been erased. All of it, every single file, gone. The only thing left was a single still image, saved in the system. It was a shot of the security office door from the hallway camera. The timestamp was from the moment I had heard the knocking. In the image, the door was still closed, but there was something else. A shadow, not on the floor, not against the wall, but on the door itself, as if something had been standing there, pressed against it, watching me. I have never worked another night shift since.